Hey everybody, this is Eben here, and today I wanted to kind of tackle a subject that I've been talking to a few students about lately that I kind of wanted to clear up and sort of share some of my own experiences about. That is whether or not you need to go to art school or get a degree or anything to make a living as an artist, or to become a great artist, or to learn the skills you need to sort of venture out on your own into today's art world. And of course there are a lot of different factors there, and I'm going to cover a few different reasons why you may or may not want to pursue that as an option. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. First, I just would love to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to just sit back and enjoy this this time-lapse process of a little sketch I did yesterday. This is just sort of some personal work I was using to warm up for a bigger character project that I'm working on at the moment. So of course, if you have any questions about this process, or if you would like to see any kind of specific content related to this or any other or particular art subject in the future, feel free to drop a comment and let me know. Alright, so let's get into the subject here. Art school. You know, I was actually talking to a student, just sort of chatting about this the other day, and you know, that big debate of whether or not you need to pursue a art education, or even just an art degree, or take courses online to get where you need to be to make this your career. Now, I've been sort of doing art professionally in some capacity for around 4 years now, and you know, it's a relatively short period of time compared to, you know, a lot of professional artists, but I have been able to make a living, you know, anywhere between 50 to at some point 100% of my income doing this. So you know, it's definitely feasible, and it actually may be simpler than you think, but it really depends upon what you want to do with this. So you know, the first thing I would ask is, you know, kind of what areas are you trying to explore? You know, are you trying to pursue, like, I think a lot of people that are following me in my work and checking out this channel are probably more interested in sort of the fantasy art, kind of concept art side of things, and may even be interested in pursuing a job at like a concept art studio, or, you know, with a video game development company or something like that. Or they may just be interested in doing sort of freelance stuff. You know, so there are a bunch of different avenues. You may even be somebody who is interested in pursuing kind of the conventional gallery system, where you actually create, you know, physical work and, you know, hang that in galleries and stuff. And I can talk a little bit about that in a second as well, and why I specifically chose not to pursue that route. But let's kind of let's start with, you know, what most people are kind of here for, probably, which is sort of they see a lot of cool work, like, you know, of fantasy and sci-fi artists, and around, like, you know, concept art for Marvel movies and for Star Wars and all this stuff, and they see these amazing artists producing this really high quality stuff that, you know, and they have these amazing portfolios, and they get these really high profile jobs, and you know, that's kind of the dream for them, you know, is to land a job at, like, you know, Riot Games or Blizzard, or, you know, or even something like Wizards of the Coast, which isn't, you know, like video game related necessarily, or film related, but it's still, you know, kind of one of those really sought after, you know, high quality art gigs for people, you know, looking to do like fantasy and sci-fi kind of art and illustration. And, you know, I can't actually speak to that too much myself. You know, a little bit about me and my trajectory. I did major in art. I didn't go to an art school. I actually I went to a small liberal arts college here in Vermont that really did not have much of an art program to speak of. There were a few great professors that I connected with there, and I learned some basics around traditional media. I worked a lot on oil paintings and sketching, and I did some natural science illustration, studies of, you know, plants and animal subjects, really trying to get those fundamentals down, and working with a variety of traditional mediums. But I actually did not start working with any kind of digital medium until after I graduated that. So I did have a bit of an art background, and I knew that it was something I had a bit of an aptitude for. Unfortunately, I never really developed the habits I needed until much later to actually make much of a career out of it, which I'll get to as well. But basically that was kind of the route that I chose, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I just knew it was something that I wanted to pursue. And then by the time I graduated, I kind of was starting to check out some of these really cool, concept artists and people that were producing artwork for films and video games. And, it just seemed like the kind of stuff I was naturally drawn to. I always read, fantasy novels and watched, films like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. And I just became enamored with those ideas and those concepts. So, I started just sort of doing that a little bit casually. I got this really cheap, like $25 drawing tablet that was, no larger than a small book. It was probably like 5 inches wide, and your hand would cramp up when you were using it. But, it got me started, and it got me kind of interested in the process. And, as I kind of proceeded through that, I started to check out some tutorials online, and it was almost kind of a fresh start for me. I felt like it was a bit of a breath of fresh air compared to what I had learned about in studying art at college, which is really what most colleges will teach, and that is how to navigate the gallery system. And so, returning to that which I brought up earlier, this is a system by which artists can create sort of single high-value artworks and place them in the marketplace. And there's a whole system of trading around those artworks, of hosting them in important places, and getting kind of the approval of various figures within those networks. And a lot of it comes down to creating perceived value around your work too, creating uniqueness, and oftentimes it revolves around it's very conceptual, and there's a strong distinction to be made between conceptual art and concept art, in that conceptual art really is more about the idea that it conveys. It's supposed to be evocative or pointing to something else, and in my experience has less to do with sort of the craft of the art itself. Not always, of course, but it seems like a lot of art pieces that are very successful in that system are not necessarily the same pieces that have been that have gone through the rigors of learning all the fundamentals and like learning these very crafts oriented elements of art, which is really what I was interested in. I had no interest in trying to create an interesting idea, or trying to create an evocative piece or something like that, or playing on any kind of commentary or any kind of ideological framework that I was trying to put out into the world. I just wanted to make art and create cool, beautiful things that can be sort of accepted at their face value for what they are, for being something that I devoted a lot of time and craft into, and something that really captivated me in terms of subject matter, which was largely even while I was studying art at school, it had to do with dragons or interesting creatures, or faces and human anatomy. It was just all and nature generally. It was really grounded in sort of in the natural world, but also the extension of that and the possibilities and sort of imaginary realms that could be modified or different variations of that natural world. So I really wanted to explore those ideas, and it really just did not seem to fit in. I tried to put my works up in coffee shops, and I got them in a few galleries here and there, and I kind of experimented with a little surrealism too, but largely it was very odd. It felt very stiff to me. I didn't really know how to market or network myself in that way, and of course I always felt totally absurd, like trying to charge basically what I thought was the right value for these things. And like some people were charging $2,000-$3,000 or even more for like this, for something that just didn't seem to have that value to me. And that's where it kind of didn't make sense to me. It was like about playing at this perceived value and the idea behind it, and I just didn't want to get into that. So Anyway, the point being that that's kind of what most art schools are going to teach you. And if you want that to be your art career, of course, all the power to you. There are definitely ways to learn about that. It is a whole skill set in itself. It's just a different skill set than the kind of skills that I try to bring to my artwork, and that especially that people in the concept art industry or illustration industry are trying to bring to their work, generally. So, as far as getting those raw skills, do you need to go to art school to get those kind of skills to really develop your artwork to a level that's going to catch people's attention and lead to gigs in other ways, not through the gallery system, or making physical paintings like that, but through the numerous opportunities that digital art provides in today's kind of globalized marketplace. Because, really one of the incredible things about digital art, or even if you're not working digitally, just about being an artist in a global system that is connected through the internet, where you can talk to anyone around the world at any time, where you can share your art to hundreds of thousands of people through social media or through any number of platforms. One of the greatest things about it is it really opens you up to find opportunities that you could not have accessed before. The other side of that, of course, is that the marketplace becomes incredibly oversaturated. So people are just everyone's just throwing their artwork out into this huge pool of possibilities, and it's kind of up to the social media algorithms or just sort of the existing online networks to decide whether or not your work gets seen. So with that saturation of the marketplace, there was a higher a bar set essentially for the quality of artwork that you have to produce in order to get noticed. And if you get noticed, you get gigs, but if you don't, it's really hard. You can cold call people, you can send emails out to people, but if you don't have a high quality portfolio immediately visible and ready to give to someone, or just to share on your website or on your Facebook or on your Instagram, if you don't have that ready at all times with some high quality artwork, chances are you're probably going to get looked over, or you may just not get picked up by the algorithm or whatever it is. So, so the question then remains, do you need to go to art school to develop that level of skill to where you can compete on the saturated online marketplace? And to that, I would say absolutely not. I definitely learned a lot from the art courses I took. I took a few in high school, and like I said, I took some in college as well and majored in art. They were not all directly relevant to the stuff I do now. They were all valuable. I practiced some ceramics. I learned a lot of figure drawing techniques. My skills were developing, but they weren't necessarily the skills I needed to really be successful in the industry that I'm working in now. Which I should clarify, I don't work for a concept art studio or anything. I will occasionally get some freelance concept artwork. Most of what I do is illustration for books and for private commissions and album artwork and that kind of stuff. And I can sort of dive into a little of how that works in a minute here. But as far as getting your skills up generally, it's the information is out there, and what you really need to get your skills up is a commitment and a solid set of habits and practice around your work. And I think a lot of people rely on the school system to provide that structure for them. And frankly, it's not worth the money. Paying tens of thousands of dollars, or even a few thousand for a smaller like community college education or something like that, you're essentially paying for someone else to take responsibility over your skill development. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. If you can develop your skills, if you can have the discipline to do that on your own, it doesn't matter if you went to college or not. All that matters is the quality of your portfolio. If you create really high quality, great art, people are going to pick it up. The algorithms are going to pick it up. People are going to hire you for stuff. I had someone ask me the other day, like, has anyone once asked you if you have a degree for a commission or anything like that? I'm like, of course not. They probably saw my portfolio and got a good impression from our first few sets of communications, which is really important, giving a good impression of professionalism and being a good person to work with. That's really helpful too. And also having a bit of a precedent of doing work like that in the past. But that and your raw skills are really going to be the most important. So, if you're thinking about going to school for this kind of thing, I will give you my 2 cents, which is basically, it was a great experience. I loved a lot of elements of college, and I loved exploring all the things I learned there and taking the classes and everything. Was it necessary to get where I am now? Absolutely not. And, if I were to, I don't regret any of those decisions that led to this point I am now, but if I were to do it over or to recommend to anyone else in my position, I would say skip the college, start working on your own practice, getting a regular schedule of developing your own artwork, of tackling those fundamental skills, of imitating great artists, of learning the fundamentals of light and shape and shadow and value and perspective and all these things. Separate them, isolate them, really put that time in, do it consistently, and it's far better to do it consistently every day versus having one day of the week where you put in 5 or 10 hours, in my experience, because you're constantly engaging with the material, and actually when you're sleeping between those days, you are assimilating that material and learning it even while you are not painting. The second thing too is to be able to market yourself and to be able to navigate that online marketplace, which is changing all the time, but using new social media tools or even just developing a really strong website. I don't necessarily think you have to use social media. It's going to be helpful for you. I personally am just not a fan of using those platforms generally, but I understand it's a great way to connect with people, and I appreciate all the connections I make through those platforms. I would love to get to a point in my career where I don't have to rely on them so much, but it is definitely useful if you're trying to strike out on your own to be able to market yourself on those different platforms, to build your audience, and eventually to maybe build an email list. That's another great thing that you can do, even just from your own website and maybe a small set of ads or something like that. There are lots of different ways you can advertise yourself online, but to be able to market yourself, to be able to look professional, and to be able to understand how to bring yourself or to bring other people into your work and into your craft, that's going to be hugely important. And of course, the third thing, just being business. I'm constantly amazed at how much of the work I do now is just sort of managing business and self-marketing and that kind of thing versus actually creating art. Of course, I do create art, and it's just not as much of a part of the process as I had expected. But I still love it, and I love learning about the business part of it too. It's just something that you can't ignore if you are trying to make a business out of your craft, and of course that's totally feasible. And even if there isn't the sort of societal precedent or acknowledgement of that possibility, it's very it's not impossible, and in fact, if you do it right, it can be pretty straightforward to market yourself just as an artist, as an individual artist, offering a skill or service, a craft of making quality artwork that people all over the world desperately need. So there's definitely a demand for it. You can totally do it. It just takes some discipline. It takes a bit of planning. Maybe make a 3-year plan or something. It takes a long time, so don't expect this to happen overnight. And then, of course, as you're building these skills, other opportunities will open up to you. If you really want to pursue a career in a concept art studio or something like that, that option is available to you, probably a little bit further down the line than just general illustration and private art commission gigs you can get, which are definitely out there, but they generally require an overall lower quality of skill than those competitive concept art jobs, especially those in like character work or environments or all those the glamorous stuff that you see in ArtStation. There are definitely concept art jobs, and I can't speak to this too much myself, as I've said, but what I've gathered from learning from other artists is that there are plenty of jobs out there that aren't quite as front and center as those environment or character jobs, such as creating icons and, icon artwork, or, sort of user interface stuff, or, just sort of general 3D assets, props, weapon design, that kind of stuff. That's all out there, and there's plenty of jobs. It's a huge growing industry, and of course it's great because a lot of those jobs now are available remotely. But once again, it's not my sort of realm of expertise. I'm just saying, if you want to pursue that, it's probably going to take a little bit longer than you would expect, and I would recommend sort of just building your skills and maybe trying to pursue some commissions from private clients in the meantime while you're building that skill set. So anyway, that's most of what I can say on this subject. I hope it's been helpful and informative for you as to how you want to go about developing your own art career. The great news is it's totally possible, especially in this day and age. If you are sort of well equipped to navigate the online global marketplace and to sort of make yourself stand out a little bit, and of course if you have the commitment to develop those skills, because I can't really emphasize that enough. Being able to commit to a daily practice and to be able to get those skills up at least until you start getting some more work in where that can sort of substitute, it can sort of replace a large part of your practice. That's going to be really, really important. And of course, if you want to develop your skills further, or if you're not really sure what these next steps you want to take to develop your own artwork are, I have a mentorship program that I offer through my website. You can check out the link to that in the description below. And I actually do one-on-one mentorship with students where we kind of create a plan for their art goals. If they're not sure what their art goals are, we're going to make those goals. We're going to isolate them. We're going to break them down and create sort of a plan as to how we're going to get their artwork to where it needs to be. So if that's something you're interested in, please check that out from the link below, or feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any questions. And of course, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the video and hit that bell so you don't miss videos I release every Wednesday, as well as live streams on Sundays. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.